Turkey Plains and RC here, operating at 2.4 gigahertz, and got my trusty Big Cake Cola. All right, let's talk about a subject that probably you may have thought got forgotten or something. No, at the edge of the world, we meet once again. Part 3 of the Edge build. Let me show you what we have. Look at the butt there. Hopefully we can get that all into frame there. Well, as you can see, it actually looks more like an airplane now. What do you think? All right, let me talk about a couple things here about the FT Edge build. As you guys know, I put most of this together with Titebond wood glue, one of the first models, well, actually the first model that I have had that experience with. And as I found out, minus the landing gear and the battery, the overall weight of the airframe was around 606 grams, which is actually under what the actual specs were. Not by a whole lot, but it did save me some weight there. So Titebond does work in terms of saving weight. So for those of you that are curious about it, well, there's your answer. As long as you're, by all means, as long as you're easy with it, and not too overly thick, and just trying to spread it lightly and to where it still has a good bond and everything, then I think that whenever you were to make a plane using the Titebond wood glue, that it should come out underweight just fine. So I used Titebond on the whole airframe, or most of it. One of the only exceptions on this model where I did not use mostly Titebond wood glue is on the cowl. And the reason for that is it was just one of those things where I needed it to kind of come together quickly and to kind of mold, and I kind of had to hold it into shape and get it just right. And to be honest with you, hot glue just worked better in that circumstance for me. So that's one of the only places on this on the model here that actually uses hot glue. There is hot glue in a few other places. Like I used it to kind of hold things in place while the Titebond sets. I think I did use a little more hot glue around the cockpit area, but for the most part, it is mostly Titebond. And in fact, if you look at a couple of the seams there, you'll see the kind of the yellowish color. That's the Titebond glue. So some additional things here about the model itself. I've heard this mentioned early on, and it is very much indeed very true that for those of you that do attempt the FT Edge build, about 95% of it is the fuselage. You'll spend more time on the fuselage than you will on the wing. The wing just snaps together, folds together very easily. So the wing, a very small chunk of time spent on it, a lot of time on the fuselage. And actually, speaking of the wing, something I do want to point out is that while watching the build video and seeing some examples of this on YouTube and everything, there was some issues with the wings folding on the FT Edge. And there was a video I watched in particular that the wings did fold. And looking at the build video for the FT Edge, I was very surprised to see not any real reinforcement on the spar for the Edge. So initially going into it, I wanted to make sure that the wing itself was really good, nice and solid. So I did, within the foam spar, did glue a paint stick in there to help with the strength for that. So I would highly encourage doing something like that as well to make sure the wing stays nice and stiff and it doesn't fold on you. Something else on the Edge that I want to point out too, this was kind of a trick, a little tip from Mayan on the forums. And this is a general tip that you can apply to any model, not just the Edge, but it's one of those sort of one of those hidden secrets that really that anybody could benefit from. And what I'm talking about is linkages and setting your throws manually through the linkages. Now, what this basically means is that depending where you actually put your push rod, can actually have an effect on the amount of throw that you're going to get. So rather than doing everything through your radio, which you still can of course do that, you're actually going to be able to sort of limit your throws as well manually. So for limited throws on the edge, which I'm definitely going to do starting out with until I get the hang of this bird. For limited throws on the edge, as well as any other plane for that matter, you want to use the outermost hole in the control horn and the innermost hole, or one of the innermost holes on the servo arm. That will really limit your throws mechanically or manually. And then from there, you can, of course, adjust with your radio if you need to. But that will limit your throws manually on the airplane. So that is one thing I did do for the Edge. I'm not quite up to 3D pilot standards or really much of an extreme aerobatic pilot. I'm just like everybody else. I'm learning as well. So anything I can do to kind of help the process out and make it a little bit easier for me, I highly encourage it. So again, if you want to be able to set your linkages manually to kind of limit the throws for starting out with, outermost hole on the control horn and the innermost hole on the servo arm. So just kind of keep that in mind. As far as that, nothing really else to report on with the Edge. I'm kind of debating the landing gear aspect of this. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this kind of set up or not, and I still need to make some adjustments to it. But for the most part, it's coming together very well and should be about ready for a maiden here before too long. I do need to put my wingtip vortex generators on the ends, or something on the wingtips at least. And aside from that, set up my radio and figure out if I want to keep the landing gear or not. And that should be about it. And then we'll be ready to actually get this thing up in the air. So, like I said, it actually is starting to look not like a pile of foam board pieces and actually kind of look like an airplane. So, I think as a scratch build, I think it came out pretty well. I mean, you're going to have some little issues and stuff, but hey, it's only foam board, right? So, all right. Well, if you guys have any questions about the FT Edge build process or anything like that, or anything that I've done, please feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know. I will say this: it is a very long process for if you're doing a scratch build. If you have a speed build kit, of course, it's going to go a lot quicker. But from a scratch build perspective, it will definitely need to take your time, and it will take some time to put it together. So, but anyways, that's all from me, guys. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.